Right.
Yeah, that was my Christmas last year, so I feel
okay. I think you're back for round 2.
Yeah.
You're kind of back for round 2. We are here with Ashley Connell. She is our Director of Administration here at the DJ&Lindsey team. And what that title means is literally Ashley does 9 trillion things, just like myself. But we're just like, well, we have to call her something. It's like the Director of Administration.
Yes.
So why don't you give us like a small little background? Obviously, we know everything about you, but let's tell the viewers. You're originally from
San Diego.
Heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. And you are now here. You have a kind of a background in real estate. You're unlicensed, but you came from a different brokerage to where you also ran admin?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And
kind of doing the same thing. Not as well processed, I guess. As you know, we love our processes here.
but polished. Yeah.
Polished, yeah. So just kind of helping when agents come on, pretty much just kind of answering the phone. We had probably 4 or 5 times the agents we have now, and there was about 6 of us in the office just answering phones all day long of pretty much any question you could probably think of.
Wow.
Within the scope of, obviously I'm unlicensed, but
Right.
marketing, pretty
Right.
much anything I knew the basics on.
Yeah, I mean, I know your office is slammed all hours of the day with questions about LLC or whatever it is, workman's comp, hang your license here or there, moving things that. Our processes, our training, right? You handle all that, and then on top of it, like sometimes change a light bulb or 2.
Yes.
Right, exactly. And I remember. So how long have you been here?
A little over a year. I think I started
yeah.
September of last year.
Right, because when you started, you were here because Megan was kind of like, not necessarily you, but was essentially you. It was bringing these agents on, onboarding them, making sure they're up and running. And I remember like, okay, like this is what Ashley's main role is going to be. It's going to be like onboarding these agents. And within a year, that has very much changed in the
Yes.
sense that like you now have an onboard specialist that works underneath you. She's great. You slide in if you need to, if we have
Absolutely.
multiple onboards. But for the most part, you're just way too valuable to be doing that because you essentially make all these other things run.
Yes.
So let's kind of talk about our training because you kind of pioneered it in the sense of like streamlined it to where it's streamlined.
Very accessible.
Right. Accessible.
Yeah.
Readily accessible and regularly accessible, which is a huge thing, right? Because before it was kind of like, it was structured in a way like we have, all these great videos and it's good training. It's great training. It's what everyone is, the general consensus is that. But it just needed to be kind of like nestled, organized, and arranged.
Absolutely, yeah. So when we originally received Trainual, DJ was like, here you go, Ashley. And I was like, awesome, this is so cool. But like collecting all of that information to get it into
Right.
one place
Big
was
time.
definitely a task.
It's a heavy lift.
Definitely a heavy lift. So it was very useful to move it all into one place. Like as we were getting bigger,
Right.
I can't be like, oh, go search workplace because that wasn't efficient.
Right, exactly. And almost putting it into their hands, like someone who's already learning so much that if it wasn't just right there and ironed out and beautiful, and I definitely can see, let's just even look at our own numbers, right? Like, obviously the market helped and everything that DJ&Lindsey have done to ensure that the opportunities are there. 3,000 transactions from 778 the year before. I don't think that's any sort of accident in the sense of like when our agents were here, they were trained up so well and so quickly. I just interviewed Maggie. She's here 4 months. She's already has 6 closed homes and has 7 pending.
Yeah, Maggie's a beast.
But not coming from real estate. She's
Yeah.
an interior designer by trade, so of course she loves home. She loves helping people. Absolutely knows nothing of real estate or how to run a business, how to close. I'm sure she closed a sale when you're talking to people, but it's very different, right? Price points are different for the most part. Not everyone can hire an interior designer.
Yes.
But yeah, the training is, and that's one of the things that I hear the most about, especially here, but even when talking with new agents or even prospective agents, a huge, I want to say, attraction is our training because everyone wants to go into real estate, then they realize they don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And Trainual is only a piece of it. It's just a good stepping stone before we kind of release them to their mentors.
Right. And that's the other thing Maggie talked about was the mentorship is huge. Massive in the sense that like she literally has someone to call when she has a problem, doesn't know a question, needs an answer, whatever the situation is. Now, you also I want to say you kind of pioneered our actual training schedule too, our in-house training stuff.
Yes.
Because you don't do enough. So we did that as well. Kind of talk us through that, like why you think, especially coming from where you came from, why that's so important.
So as we know, agents are all over the place, right? They are always showing or having closings or whatever. And I think bringing them all in one area is definitely a good way to learn. We have workplace and training at any one time, but it's kind of just very basic.
Right.
But that's why we have very specific classes on contracts or marketing or anything like that.
And more interactive too,
and
right?
More interactive.
It's more of a discussion. And Lewis even said that, who was actually the first podcast that we ever did here, was that it was almost like a therapy session in the sense that like he was hearing other agents' problems, hearing his own problems, and he's like, okay, either my problem was like so not as bad as that, or vice versa. Like I was able to hear someone else's problem, it made me feel better about my problem, also solved his problem, and then again, like work through whether it was an objection or whether it was an issue. Like I even heard just the other day, we're coming out of one of these classes, and one of our agents, there was a situation with something, and it was about how they wouldn't be able to close at the time they wanted to. His own clients wanted to. And they were like, they were upset they had to push the closing. He turns around, and he's very much out of mentorship. He kills it. Goes right to Brittany, and Brittany goes, well, why don't you get with them on mobile notary or power of attorney, like all these things, so that they can close and get this house on time, because life happens. They were thrown an absolute pile of whatever it was. And just immediately he's like, I literally never thought of that, and just turned around, and like just constantly receiving that support is wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And now you also provide support when it comes down to the business and like that LLCing, things like that. Because I know your office is right behind mine, just like Chelsea's office. You're constantly down. Is that kind of like a necessity of being in the business, or you were like, I need to learn this, like, because I enjoy helping? Like where did that kind of fall into place, or it was just kind of like, I guess I'm gonna figure out how this works?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like I said, coming from previous, I kind of heard through the grapevine that this is something that would be really great, and then DJ and Lindsey were like, we're going to implement this. Here you go, Ashley. And so then again, Trainual, we just want everything to be very concise and precise, and so everything is outlined step by step on how to get their LLC and create their business. Yeah,
because I mean, I always see all the paperwork that you go through, and it's it looks fun.
I love paperwork. It's fine with me.
Yeah, it looks fun. All right, so what are some of your goals going into 2022? What are some of these things we want to accomplish?
Group onboards.
Group onboards.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I would love to have a group of agents who are joining us all in one place and kind of walking through that the whole 4 days, kind of in person, one-on-one, kind of teaching some of that stuff that they do go over in Trainual in person.
Yes.
And I think would be better handing off to the mentors.
I dig that. Right. There might be more questions answered going into mentorship then, because a lot of stuff is, and we don't fault them for it at all, because there's a lot. But you're right. There is a lot of repetitive questions that we see happening all the time. And again, we do a great job with educating them, making sure they have readily accessible materials. But it's interesting because Kevin, obviously coming from a huge outfit, to hear saying he's never seen an onboard process such as this.
Yeah, I actually went through the full onboard process with him when he joined, so he could see how of it works.
Okay, that makes sense.
That was a little bit nerve-wracking.
Right.
But he very much was like, oh my God, this is, like we always say, it's in a pretty neat bow. It's perfect for him to come in.
Right, because I'm sure he's seen the flip side to where it's just like a total disaster. I mean, let's take Maggie, since we talked about her earlier. Imagine if she comes in 4 months in, I guarantee you she doesn't even close a deal if she's not here with that sort of training, mentorship, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely.
I mean, and she's a great, energetic person. Like, she's so personable. There's no reason why she shouldn't. I just don't think she'd be able to, because she didn't know anything about she doesn't know anything about the business.
Yeah.
She literally doesn't. And Lewis said the same thing. He's like, I needed basically a year and a day to figure out the business. He's like, I got it in like less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's like, I knew exactly how to do it. He's like, sales, easy. And it is. I mean, he now's on the listing team, and he's crushing it. That's news. But that's it. He was like, it was literally the business of real estate was the biggest hang up, and it was answered and taken care of within 2 weeks of like, oh, okay, like this is how it's going to get handled.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few agents, kind of be like, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm going to get my license. I'm going to crush it. Da, da, da. And then not.
Right.
But since being here, almost everyone who really puts their mind to it, puts that 100% in.
Right.
Absolutely does it.
Right. Because even though we'll call it with a bow on it, handed to them, it requires effort. I mean, almost everything is.
Sweat equity is what we call it.
I love that.
Yes.
And I say this all the time. I'm like, rarely are you ever going to find any sort of business model where you can be like, I want to open up a cupcake shop and I want all the reward but none of the risk. That's literally what's happening here. And then also we're training you how to make cupcakes. Right? Like,
correct. Yeah.
That's literally insane. It's like unheard of, but the model just yields it. Is that kind of like, did you just kind of like pat yourself on the back after Kevin was like, wow, this is wild? You're like, yeah, I know.
I mean, a little bit.
Right. But you came from somewhere where it didn't have that. So you already knew the value of it while you're building it.
Absolutely. I kind of knew where we could make sure we do beef up our training because I know what other brokerages don't have.
Right. Right. You knew where the holes were.
Yes.
Right. And we say, hey, like this is going to be a massive hole. And that's what I'm tasked with doing. Obviously, we're working on a new project right now as a whole. And I'm like, this is going to be a hole. I even said it to you. I had Rich working on it. I'm like, this is going to be a hole where we're going to start to see lime green versions of this. I'm like, well, that can't happen. I'm like, that is going to be a huge hole because I've come from that side of it, right? I've been the person that had people ask like, hey, like I want to do this, I want to do this. I'm like, well, there's a bunch of guidelines you have to follow so that your website doesn't look like, I don't know, it's like from 1983 and it's insane, right? Like it's just bananas.
Yeah, the operational side of that is, I think, almost officially complete, which is cool.
Right, that's exciting. And I said to them too, I was like, this is huge. I mean,
absolutely.
It's big. And we'll talk about it later, but it's big in the sense that it's just going to allow other people to understand and be a part of our culture. And I think that's the biggest part. I mean, we get that, and our talent team says it all the time, is that the culture here is unparalleled, obviously the training, but the culture here is just unparalleled, and people want to be a part of it, but sometimes they literally can't.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot. It's a lot, and you have to dedicate a lot. And if you're not fully in it because you're whatever it is, you have to be able to give us the time because that's the sweat equity that we require to make sure that the process works.
Absolutely. Speaking on the culture, I think one of my favorite things is once they're done with me, they kind of move on to mentorship, and I don't really get to talk to them a lot thereafter because they're out going on showings, talking with Brittany and Brett on the actual real estate side of things. And a lot of times I don't talk to them again for another 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then it's nice to finally, like, when I have some time, I kind of step back out of my office and kind of come and say hi to everyone. I'm like, how are you doing? What's going on? Like, I haven't seen you. And they're like, oh my God, I executed. I did this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so great.
Right. They're sitting at the cool kid table at lunch at this point.
They're finally there. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good.
Yeah, but that's even crazy in itself in that you're onboarding somebody who could be completely new in real estate. And by the time you go to just say hi to them, only a short few months later, they're like, oh yeah, no, I have like 10 deals. Like they're in the bag. Yeah. I've been paid 30, right? Like, it's crazy.
They're like, oh, I don't need you anymore, Ashley. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, fine. I'll just have to create a new training so that you have to need me. I'll settle this.
Right.
Right. Now, are going to be, so obviously handling the Uber bomb boards, are you going to be training or doing any sort of trainings of your own?
I am.
No
I'm kind
way.
of taking over some of the current trainings that we have. I will be doing Boomtown 1-on-1.
Yes.
Or 101, sorry. And then New Lead Now What.
Yes. Huge protocol to follow because we know, just like anything else, the customer's first.
Yes.
Right. So New Lead Now What, as far as like, making sure that these people are talked to properly, because the way our process works is these people are talking to active, live buyers and or sellers that are interested in.
They're currently on the website.
Right. Yes. Exactly. So it's not even like a speed to lead. Hey, call this person that mentioned to my neighbor 6 months ago while they were walking their dog that their front door was broken and they wanted to move. Like, this is like, I am online shopping for homes, or I am online vetting to find the real estate agent to hire and sell my home. That's who these people are talking to. So you have to make sure that these agents understand this is someone's life that they're dealing with and then handling it properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now you're going to be undertaking that.
Yeah.
Love that. Are you excited?
I am. I had my first Boomtown class last Friday.
Okay.
So it was a little nerve-wracking, but
Right.
I made it through.
Big turnout or what?
Yeah, we actually, just because everyone in mentorship has to go to the
Right, right.
classes, and then we had 3 or 4 new onboards, so they were in there. So it was a good mixture of
Wow.
some who have.
So now you'll be able to kind of see these people. So now you won't have to wait 2 months to
No, I
talk to
won't
them.
have
You'll
to
be able
talk-
to just be
yeah.
like, hey, you need help.
Yeah.
Which is great though. And again, that's why we have all our kind of our ladder, the rungs of the ladder here, is because we rarely just throw in the towel, right? It's usually somebody throwing in the towel, like just this, that, whatever the situation is. Like we are like, hey, like you can do this.
Yes.
And I think it's you, it's Brittany, it's Brett, it's Kevin, it's even our talent team, Megan, that crew. It's the amount of support that they get here, coupled with the culture of having people come into the office, hearing people talk on the phone, having conversations, hearing that validation of like, okay, like other people are also having problems too. So I mean, think about it. If you're a real estate agent and you're in a rut, like you're not talking to other real estate agents telling them you're in a rut, because then they're
No.
like, oh, I'm not in a rut. Like everyone's always trying to like put on the face. But here, it's okay to be in a rut because you have literally a massive support group to pull yourself out. I
Correct.
mean, we just shared some people's Facebook posts from the holiday party, just talking about how stoked they were to be a part of this team. And it's just creating this fishbowl effect of like people want to come in here, and we just have to tell them what is required of them.
Yeah,
And just
absolutely.
Make sure that they understand that. But people want to change their lives, and we're doing it.
I'm here.
Yeah, I know. You're doing it. You're making sure they're doing it by the books.
Correct.
Taxed LLC properly.
Please.
Properly. Well, obviously, you know how valued you are here. We love you here. The machine doesn't work without you. But it's great now. I just saw you've just been splitting time now in offices because you just we need it, right?
Yeah.
We need it.
I'm helping down in the closing team down there. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
once agents are obviously done with their closing, we want to get them paid as fast as possible.
Definitely.
So helping out in those processes now on that
Right.
end side.
Awesome. And then maybe changing a light bulb or two.
And then maybe changing a light
Maybe
bulb,
let's change
too.
a light bulb or two. Ash, thanks for coming on. We love you. And
course.
when you join our team, this is your girl. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We'll see you.